All right, welcome to this episode of the Legal Edge Coaching Podcast. This is your host, Trevor White, with
And
the
your
other
co-host
host.
Shane, your co-host Shane Smith.
You're not my co-host, bro. We're like the host. We're just hosts. I've decided that's how it is. There's host and host. I don't even like
All
the
right,
word co. Co sucks. I don't
so
know. Maybe
host
it
and
does, but
host.
it's the host and the host. So Trevor and Shane here with the Legal Edge Coaching Podcast, where really we share all the things that we have learned over the last 2 decades of growth and expansion on life and on how to operate and grow your firm, right? To build your firm into something that actually matters, an impact to where you don't just make money, but you also have impact in your every other area, every other part of your life. And so welcome to today's show, man. Shane, how are you, man?
I'm doing well today. It's a Monday afternoon for me, and that's always a busy time, and you get to work after a restful weekend and hit things going. So doing well.
Good, 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 good. So today's topic, I'm gonna introduce it by sharing a simple little story that happened to me over this weekend. And I had been on a personal pursuit and a journey to really discover me, right? And I've been on it for a really long time, but there's always new levels, right? So I'm always trying to find this new level of it. And so personal development has been very important to me. Like it's been the thing I'm just going after, right? I'm just trying to be the best me that I could possibly be. I screw it up all the time. I make tons of mistakes. I do things wrong. But it's been like this single focused kind of pursuit for me is, different things. Like, and I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or not, but like some of the things, like I'm like running in 2 weeks, bro. I don't know if you may not even know exactly when this happened to Shane, but in 2 weeks, I'm running that 77-mile run.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, so that's 2 weeks from now, 77 miles around the island of Kauai from point to point because you can't run over the Nepali coast. But it's basically as far as you can go, 77 miles. And so yeah, I'm running that foot race, but the whole point behind it was just to push me, right? I want to break my body down so that I can find new levels, new thresholds. But my focus has all been on me, and I thought that was a good thing, right? I was like, well, I'm trying to be a better me. I'm trying to do all these things. I'm trying to like just improve myself, and like, how could that be wrong? And what I end up realizing and what ends up happening is I'm sitting there and I'm kind of like pondering where I'm at. I'm looking at what I've been doing and all the focus, and I've had a lot of success in it too, a lot of growth, a lot of things that I'm just like proud of myself for. I'm like, good job, Trevor. You did this, you did that, you did this, and but then I had this realization, right? And I realized in that I was focusing and I was telling myself a story, which was the most important thing I can do is focus on me and developing me because that's going to help everybody else. And all my dreams are going to come true, all my targets, everything I set for myself. And inside of that, I actually came to another realization that the story I was telling myself that I was kind of numero uno and I needed to focus wholeheartedly on me was actually affecting me in a negative way. It was actually getting me what I didn't want in another area of my life. And I think inside of our world, especially inside of the legal game, as all the attorneys I've worked with and working with you and just everything, it's very easy to become so compartmentalized based upon what you tell yourself.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
It's like this story you say, hey, this is the most important thing, so I must focus on this. Like the kind of the elephant in the room on that's always it's like, hey, if in order for me to grow my law firm, I have to do nothing but focus on my law firm. And so I saw that and I looked, it was interesting. And I talked to my wife about it and I brought it up to her and I said, babe, I realized that my focus on me has actually created a wedge between you and I. Unknowingly, unwillingly, thinking I'm doing the right thing because I'm telling myself and I'm believing that this is what I should do. And then I go and I just focus on me, but by doing that, I kind of like ostracize her a little bit. And we have a good relationship. Like in some respects, let's say we have a great relationship. And in many, and if you were to take a snapshot on the outside, it would be like, that's great. But it was interesting. I bring it up to my wife yesterday. It was yesterday, the day before, and I bring it up to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because I feel it too." And we had this awesome, amazing conversation about it. And like since then, I changed the story. I realized that I can't do that. Right? It's not that I can't go run the 77 miles, and it's not that I can't keep growing and build on me, but I had to reframe the way I was looking at it. Like the way I was acting and the way I was showing up was creating these problems that I didn't even mean to cause. But it's just clear to, and this is really what I want to like bring the subject to today, is the things we tell ourselves become the rules we live our life by, right?
100%.
They just do. Like no matter what it is in life, it starts with a thought that then begins to a story. It's like what you tell yourself. And we've all heard that, there's your version, my version, and then there's, I heard a new way of saying that, which I actually liked. It's like there's more than two sides to the coin. There's
Really?
heads and tails, but then there's the edge. And I was like, oh shit. I like that. That's a cool visual with that. Like, so the edge is, and the edge to me is where, where reality is. But like what you tell yourself is going to dictate what you do, right? It's just the stories we tell drive what it is we do. It's like if I tell myself that I'm a piece of shit and I'm no good and I'm a failure and I keep screwing up, like if I believe these things about myself, I will continue to do this and continue to show up this way. So that's just kind of a simple example on just a simple story. We all have them. Stories don't go away. It's not like one day you stop telling stories and stop having narratives. And it's like this. Even Shane, you and I, your reality, the things you tell yourself, are not the same as what I tell myself.
No, and and it's amazing all these stories we do tell ourselves, right? And we talked a little bit last time about the stories we raise our childhood from, and we try to outgrow it. I mean, scarcity comes to mind for me, right? All the baggage and stuff. I've probably analyzed the stories I tell myself around scarcity over and over and over, to get to a point today where I won't say I never worry about scarcity, but I worry about a lot less than I used to because I've worked through a lot of those stories. And even, the idea that it's almost impossible to grow a business, right? Because if you dig into all the numbers and the financials and stuff, you can pretty much wear yourself down because all the stuff they put out of businesses is a lot of it's bad.
Yeah.
And if you buy into those stories, everything's going to be hard. But if you flip it, say, well, look, I've got skills and I've got the attitude and the mindset and the experience. I had to build it again. I could do that, and as soon as you accept that story, some of your scarcity starts to go away, right? Because you believe in yourself.
Yeah, dude. Well, there's stories on growth. We talk about like just spinning it to firm growth and growing your business, like, which is really what I think, all our listeners are here to really have a conversation about today is like, there's this story of failure, right? Some people look at this idea of failure. Now you hear people say it, failure is only failure if you quit. That's a cliche thing to say, but it's 1000% the truth. Because what you believe to be the truth is what's going to show up and have you do it. So like thinking back when you started your firm, like there's a way you thought. Like there was shit that you knew was true. Right? Think back to the Yellow Page salesperson.
Yeah.
That sales guy comes in, right? And he's telling you this stuff, and you had to anchor into something, right? Because you didn't have the experience, you didn't have the reps inside of it. So you believed something. Like, what was like if you think back to that, like we've talked about it before, like what's the thing you believed then? That was the story that was like your truth.
I think it was just that you had to advertise, and this was the best way to do it, right? That you couldn't just get ahead by networking, right? That you had to do advertising. And I got that story because all the big firms that I knew about all advertised pretty heavy, most of them on TV, and most of them were on TV. And I knew I couldn't do that. I just, I didn't have the money to move into the Atlanta TV market. But then here's the big Yellow Page, and then here's this small neighborhood Yellow Page. And there are people in there that I know. And I'm like, oh shit, I got to get in there, right? Like, this is how I'm going to make the phone ring is by advertising. And I still believe that story. I just believe that was the wrong version of doing it,
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even that it was that you needed to rely. You didn't have the experience. You didn't have all of that. So you believed this was the secret, really, because the story wasn't that, hey, you needed to do that. Because you need to advertise. That's a pretty solid sounding truth. I would say that's a productive story that brings right. But the problem was you believed at that time that was the golden key.
Right. That's the issue right there. I thought it was the golden key. I thought it was one thing. Boom. It was this magic bullet. This alone was going to take me to the next level versus this is one part of everything that you got to do.
Yep. How many times have you thought the thing that you were going to do inside of your firm was the thing? Like that you're like, okay, this is the right direction. This is the right move. This is the right. And it turned out to not be.
Hell, I don't even know. I can't even count it, right? Because there's so many where I've thought this is, and rarely has it ever been the one thing that takes you to the next level, right? I mean, this miraculous one idea.
Yeah, let's address that right now. That story that anybody's telling himself is bullshit. So if you're telling yourself that you think it's just one little thing that's going to pull it off, you're going to be disappointed. And what I have watched happen is when you believe things like that and you say things, and that's the story, and this is all my eggs are in this basket. Here I go. This is my Hail Mary. I'm hoping to win. There's a reason Hail Marys hardly ever work because that's exactly what they are as a Hail Mary, whether it's in sports or whatever it is, right? If I'm hucking the ball, I'm on a whim and a prayer. That's not a strategy or a plan, but we get in this mindset that we'll do that. And this is where most firms that open quit. This is why most businesses fail within the first 5 years.
Yeah.
Because they think that's how it's supposed to go, and they're in for a rude awakening, which means their reality, what they've been telling themselves, how easy it's going to be, what this growth is going to be, how successful they're supposed to be, or even how talented they are. Right? I know for me personally, I've had to have those moments where I look back and I'm like, dude, Trevor, you're not as good as you think you are.
Yeah.
And that's been tough, right? We've talked about the code in here and being honest with yourself and telling the truth, but it's all based upon these stories. But if I don't see that and I believe I'm going to believe these stories that it's this one ditch effort, it's this one marketing thing, it's not. Because even here, let me ask you, man, like I'm sure you've wasted money. Like, so I'm sure that those outliers absolutely existed where it really was a waste of money. You're like, well, shit, that was a terrible idea. I don't even think I learned a lesson from that. It was just stupid. That was me. And even in that, there's a lesson, right? There's still like stuff you could pull from it. But when you look at all of the quote unquote failures, like, were they really bad for you long term? When we look at the 20 years of your firm.
Yeah. I mean, I would say most are not bad because there's big lessons in all of them, right? Mm-hmm. And also if you start to say, well, if I took this failure away and I didn't learn this lesson, would I have went further down this path and screwed up even more? Yeah. Right? Like I spent like $50,000 and countless payroll hours trying to develop a niche practice area, and in hindsight, we didn't do nearly enough research. We had the wrong guy leading the team, and we picked the wrong. I mean, it's just a cascade of errors. Yeah. But we shut that area down and we pivoted to a different area, and that allowed us to open up in North Carolina, right? So it's like, was it an error? Yeah, it was bad. It cost me the money, but it led to the growth and got the firm to where it's at today. Yeah. So,
well, here's the thing that's so funny. See, it's just it's the strength, it's the frames, it's the stories we tell ourselves. Because how much is law school? How much is it for me to start out? What do you just give me?
I mean, most of them are about somewhere around $50,000 a year, right? So it's 150 grand.
So 150 grand plus everything else, living life and all of that, right? So let's call it around 200K. You're probably going to at least have to pull this shit off, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, was that a waste of money? Well, no, it got you your career, right? It got you your ability to go down this, and you learned some shit, right? You learn. What's the point of it? It's to learn. It's to learn how to pass the bar. It's to learn all of these things, right? So you get to the end of it, and what do you really take? Did you make a shit ton of money because you invested 200K? Well, no. It's the potential.
Yeah, it opens the door, and that's what we see with younger lawyers in particular. Some of them feel like, hey, I've done it, I've arrived, but you didn't really arrive. You got the door open. Now you got to go through it and to go do all the work. And that's what we talk about. You're still
standing in the same damn room. The door is just now unlocked.
Right.
I don't even say it's open, bro, because you used to have to go open it. I just say it's unlocked. Like, I'm like, the door is now unlocked. It was been locked up to this point. You couldn't even get through. You couldn't even shoot your way through it, bat around, it ain't gonna open. But now all of a sudden, somebody came over and took the padlock off. And like, oh shit. So then you got to walk over and you got to open the door. But as soon as you open the door, now you get reality. And that's the same thing, not just out of law school and dropping the 200K. This is the same thing inside of business. So when you look at like things that you cannot tell yourself that, oh, that was a failure, this was a problem, because it led you to the new thing. And the things you learned going one direction, all the experience, like I still remember the very first time I ever ran like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn ads.
Yeah.
Right. And first time I ever did it, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, this is just going to work. I'm going to flip the magical switch, and magically this is just all going to be amazing. And I'm going to be sitting here like, oh my gosh, the money is just raining from heaven. I have so many leads, I don't know what to do with. And then the reality happens. No different than you with the yellow pages. Right. The phone doesn't ring. And the same
now you get like 3 leads. Yeah. I mean,
I'm like, what the hell's going on here? This is not what it was. I was told that online marketing was easy. Right. So I believed the story. I believed a certain thing. And again, this is the rub, because it's not the belief that's necessarily the problem at the beginning. It's if you hold anchored to it, because this is where you'll quit. This is where, and I've talked to many, many business owners that they do it. And then I'm like, why don't you advertise this way? Why don't you do this? Well, I tried it once.
Yeah.
I did it once. I hired a paralegal, and she was a piece of shit. And she did this and that. She was no, I just wasted money. So, that's why I don't hire anyone again. And I'm like, okay, cool. So you're choosing to play small. You're choosing to stay small. You think every hire is like perfect? Like somehow that's not going to be the case, right? It's this, but this I think is what keeps people stuck in the narrative of growth. They won't grow
Yeah,
because they're.
well, yeah. I mean, one whole year we had the story that we couldn't find good people.
Mhm.
That was our story. That was what we believed. I mean, we couldn't get good people through Indeed and everything else, and that kept us from growing a whole year until finally I decided, you know what, I don't want to hear this story anymore. I'm going to kill it and get rid of it.
Yeah.
And as soon as I did that, and I said, okay, assume there are good people, and I'm talking to my CEO, and I said, and I'm going to grow. How would you solve the issue? Inside like 30 minutes, he goes, well, we need our own recruiter. We need somebody whose sole job is to run Indeed ad and vet them and screen resumes and do all that. And I said, okay, so then done, boom. Inside of 30 minutes, when we killed the story, we found a solution. Right now, did it make it all easy? No, but it took us to the next level and opened it up. I mean, just by killing that story that was holding us back. And so often we think they're all true, right? I mean, we believe these stories with our heart and soul a lot of times.
Oh, they become our laws and our total rules of governing our entire life. Dude, I think with your analogy, it's actually perfect, right? With the door, right? Because we're all sitting in a room, no matter where you're at, whether it's law school or your first year as an attorney or your first year owning your own firm, like all of these things are different, and you have laws and rules that you don't even realize are there governing it. The goal is to find the stories that are keeping you stuck in that room and opening up the door, because it's almost like you have this room and there's lots of doors on it, but you have a hard time even seeing that there's even doors because you're trapped in the rules, the stories, the stuff that you tell yourself. And it's like every move is to, how do I find a new story that gets me to the new level, right? Running $100 million firm, you're going to believe something different than you did running a firm that just did $1 million.
Yeah.
There's different truths, there's different realities, but it doesn't mean the guy running $1 million firm can't build to the $100 million firm. But there's a radical different version of that person in both of those spheres.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's not that they're more talented, they don't have like special gifts that they don't have. Like, this is one thing I think, the story that is probably one of the most damaging that I've experienced in the business world, is that we think people that have success, it'd be like me as a new attorney looking at you and thinking, well, Shane, you're just special.
Yep.
You've been able to build your firm because you were born where you were born, or you're the way you are, or you have a talent that I just don't have. You got a gift. You were in the right time at the right. But as soon as I start believing that about you, then immediately I look at my own self, and I see you at over, a firm that did over 20 million last year. And then I see me at a firm that did $1 million, and I start to think you're special. And in turn, I'm not.
Right.
I don't have what you have. I don't have the opportunities. And then that spins me into this, well, there's bad people and I can't find good people. That's
right.
What it's the bad people. Shane got all the good people. There's none left for me. So I can't do this. There's a mentor of mine. I freaking love this guy. And you go into his business, and he's got about 1,000 employees that work in-house, and he's got several thousand out of house. But you go in there, and one of the things he always jokes about is, when people roll in here, they always say the same thing. They're like, where did you find all these people? And he's like, it's not that I found them. I built this place this way. It's the culture, right? And they're all there. Like, because everybody's like, how do you build this? How did you do this? And it was just like, he believes something dramatically different than the other guy who's saying, well, there's just shitty people everywhere. I can't hire good help.
I was going to say, and as soon as you start comparing yourself to other people and saying they've got something you don't, you slip really quickly into sort of the victim powerlessness.
Yeah.
And I call it victim mentality, but I mean, it's really just because you're saying, I've got no power and ability to change this, which means then you can't change anything, right? Because, and you're just going to be stuck with the results. I mean,
you're waiting for something outside of you to fix the problem, and it won't, and it will never happen. And then you're the one who sits there knowing you had potential to build greatness, but you never did it. Year by year goes by, and you're like, oh, why didn't I do it? I'm still not that. Everything stays stagnant, right? And we know all about stagnant water, right? Everything dies. And so your purpose goes away, everything, you get stuck in this place. And it's literally from those types of environments where you see that, and we think, right? I hate it. Like when people do success like overnight success or self-made. Bullshit, right? Shane, you don't build the firm you have if you don't have people.
Exactly. That's
There
one
is
of the
no,
things we talk about, right?
yeah,
Is and I hate that pillar in our in the legal edge. I mean, the people, I just wanted to ignore all that when I was smaller.
mm-hmm.
But I mean, the bigger you get, the more that becomes so important. I mean, culture becomes shifts to become more important. And articulating culture and finding good people and building teams and letting them run their teams. I mean, all of that becomes more and more important the bigger you get.
Yeah,
When it's 7 people, it's not as hard. But when you got 150 like me, it's super critical. And
yeah.
and just training your teams and your leaders, I mean, is huge. And if you believe there are no good people out there, you're never going to get that way. I don't think you get probably over 8 people if you believe there's no good people out there.
No, because they won't perform for you. And so the 8 people you have will start costing you money because
Yeah.
they'll be shitty ass performers and you'll burn out because you'll end up doing their job for them because you're not holding them to a standard. You've built no culture. You've done nothing. You've just been the hustler and the grinder who went out and wanted to be a business owner. And then you're grinding your fingers into the ground and you're
Right.
wondering why you're in pain all the time and why shit's not working. And it's not a, I mean, these are the ones that stay stuck in these small little rooms with the doors right there and shit. Someone might even come in and help them out and open the door for them and point to them and say, hey, just walk out of the room. You're going to see something different, but they won't do it. Right? They get so stuck in this route and then they get trapped. And then the big problem is, dude, with the stories you tell that put you into that trap, there's only really, if you don't either do something about it and break free from the room, you can't stay in the room and not find a way to sedate. You can't
Correct.
because there's
Yeah.
just no way. So then to cope with the fact that you're not growing, unhappy, frustrated with what it is, you're the victim, you're the things not working, right? This is where you go to drugs, alcohol, porn, having affairs, any kind of way to basically sedate or numb the fact that you are not you're trapped and
Yeah.
it's crazy how I've watched it happen not just once or twice. I've watched it happen many, many times. Most of the people I've interacted with, they're at least at one point have been in that place, and usually they're in that place when I start talking to them.
Yeah. I mean, no, it happens all the time because, like you say, you get stuck. I mean, even my story, I talk about it, my sticking point. I was there for like 4 or 5 years and things were not on a great path uh, until I opened my eyes enough to know where it was leading to, right? I look around, I look at the lawyers who've been this way, and I'm like, well, shit, that's not the life I want. I don't want to tear my marriage in half. I don't want to become an alcoholic. Got to do something different. And I mean, that was my sticking point. And I had to slay a bunch of stories back then. I didn't even know some of the stories, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
What I think that's the key, dude. I think you just hit on it. You don't even know, right? You don't even know, and that's one of the reasons the legal edge. Why we do what Shane, why you and I do this, is because there's a map and a process to pull this shit off, like to be able to attack it. Because just to say, hey, I needed to reframe my stories, cool. That's cliche. Go read a book, and you're not going to do anything with it. It's not going to do any good for you. Cool. I need to reframe my stories because you don't even know the stories that are damaging you. You don't even aware because they're to you, they're just the way it is. It's the rules and the laws of your life. It's just the way it is. Like I still remember back when I was young. I was like 18, 17, something like that. I have quite the checkered past. I moved out of my house when I was 15. But so I was on my own for a couple of years, but I worked at 7-Eleven at the time. It's just a short little part-time job I had. And I worked there and I remember I just knew I was like the hardest worker I knew. I knew it. I knew that no one could outwork me. That was my story. No one can outwork me. I'm the hardest worker. So I lived my life that way, which I don't think is a bad story, right? Not a bad story at all. I think it's a great story. And it drove me to excel in my little teeny little world at that time as a 7-Eleven attendant guy, whatever, clerk or whatever you call him. So I remember working there though, and this dude pulls in, and I worked the swing shift into graveyards, and I was there, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. No one else was in the parking lot, kind of like we had this lull, no one was there, and this dude pulls in a red Ferrari. And I'd never seen one at this point. I'd never seen one in real life. I'd seen pictures, movies, and all this kind of stuff. Don't even remember what kind of Ferrari it was. I'm sure thinking back to when that it was probably like a 355 Spider or something like that. But just based on the year. But who knows? Probably might have been a Ferrari 360. But anyhow, he pulls in this red Ferrari, gets out of the car, and the dude couldn't have been 30 years old. And at the time, I'm like, 17 or 18, somewhere around there. And I'm looking at, and he gets out, and I'm in awe, right? I'm gawking at the
right.
car, but I'm gawking at him, and my brain is breaking. It was the first time I realized the reframe of a story had to exist, like that there was even a thing such as a reframe, and that maybe what I believed wasn't true. Because and I helped him. I don't even remember, he bought some stuff, goes, he leaves. I'm just watch him drive away. He pulls out on Washington Boulevard, turns right, and just pulls down the road. And I'm just like standing. I went outside, standing there, watching him drive away. See his taillights disappear, and I'm just like, wow. But what broke for me was the fact that I had to face the reality that, and this all started that night. I sit there and I'm like, I'm the hardest worker that I know. Like, that's my truth. But no matter how hard I work, I'll never be able to afford that car doing what I'm doing. I can't work more hours in a day. You know, at the time I was making like $4 an hour, whatever the hell it was. It was like nothing, right? And I'm like, there's no possible way, which means I'm like, and it was the first time I realized there was maybe a different way. And then my mind started unraveling of thinking about really wealthy people. And I started thinking about who are the wealthy people in the world. Right? I started researching it and just looking these things up. And I'm like, well, I have the same 24 hours in a day that he does. So how the hell is he making $1 million a month? Like, I don't get it. Like, it was broken, right? And it took a lot of years, like several years, for me to like figure out what that meant. But it was the first experience I'd had with reframing that the way I saw the world was not the way the world was. It's just the way it was for me. Because that guy, he didn't believe the same shit I believed. I knew it. It was obvious. He wasn't that much older than me, and he was driving, I don't know, back then it was probably a $300,000 car, whatever it was.
Yeah.
He's driving a $300,000 car, and I'm making $4 an hour. Well, there's some disparage there. I'm like, what the fuck? And I can't work harder. I've got to reframe. So it opened me up to this journey to really start to discover these stories we tell ourselves become ironclad. Because that was me 17, 18. By 22, I was a millionaire. So I had gone to war to reframe everything I told myself in every way, because I'm like, that's possible. So no matter what else I seem to believe, even if I think it's true, it's bullshit, because that guy did it. And either I could believe what my parents said. I think we talked about this last week or last show. Like, I could believe my parents said that he's evil and he's stolen from somebody, which I knew that wasn't true. I talked to the guy. Yeah. And I kept anchoring to that. I mean, he's a cool dude. And maybe he stole from people. I don't know, but he seemed like just a cool guy. And I'm like, man, I want to be that cool guy. And everything I was believing. I mean, I remember leaving 7-Eleven and I'm like, well, I need a commission job. And so I went and I got a job at freaking telemarketing company called Convergys. And I worked for American Express, and I was supposed to call and get people to get more American Express cards. That was like, so I'm like stepping into this realm, and I'm like, okay, and it just was this slow progress. But all along the way, I had to be willing to realize that in order for me to grow, I had to completely let go of all the stories I was telling myself at the level I was at. They weren't going to get it done. And I didn't have a map to follow, right? I didn't have a process at the time. It was just like, dude, just try to figure this shit out. And I didn't know anybody who was rich other than this dude in a Ferrari I saw one day for 10 minutes.
Well, I was going to say that's one of the key points that you talked about is, you interacted with somebody who was further ahead than you, and he broke all your stories instantly. And I think, like, at the law firm, even I went to go visit a sister law firm that somebody else invited us in, and they were bigger than me, that not a huge surprise at the time. But then I was talking to them, and I knew they were a volume practice, right? Like mine, their volume was just at a different level. And then I asked them what their average fee is, and they give me a number. I'm like, well, what the hell? That's twice mine almost. Right. And then I came back and like you, started re-engineering and stuff and saying, okay, if they can get there, I've seen them, they're some of them might be smarter than me, but certainly not all of them, and then I reframed all my stuff, and suddenly we increased our average fee. It took like 2 years, but after that, it was no longer double by any stretch. We were much more competitive, which increased everything else. But by that association and being exposed to other people on the path, I jumped, you know what I mean? It broke my frame and put it back together, just like you meeting him broke your frame. But, if you didn't ever have access to him or even bump into him, who knows how long you would have continued working at 7-Eleven.
Oh, for sure. Like, it would have definitely been, the trajectory would have been different. No different than you. No different than, we're all this way. This is why we've all heard this. You got to be careful who you surround yourself with. Yeah. You're a sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if those 5 people are not either pushing you to be more, supporting your growth, or they're already there showing you the path, You really have to seriously question, do you, number one, actually want to have the success you say you want? Or number two, who do you need to remove?
Right.
Like people, I'm not friends with the same people all the time. I have people that I'm friends with. I remember there's a really good friend, Caleb, super cool dude, and we hung out for about 2 years. And at the time, he made more money than me, and he was more economic and more abundant. And then I surpassed him, and it wasn't a money thing. It was the fact that I was internally wanted growth, but I just outgrew our friendship even because he didn't want to grow anymore. And it was like I wasn't okay just to sit around and do nothing. Like that wasn't okay with me. Skiing was just I couldn't ski every day anymore. I'm like, I don't want to ski every day. Like I want to go, I want to build. I'm building stuff. Like let's go build. And he didn't want to build. So it was like I still like him. If I saw him today, we would probably give each other a hug and go to dinner and have a great time. He's a great guy, but I don't surround myself with him like that. And it wasn't even conscious. It wasn't even, I just remember one day we just never hung out anymore. I was like, holy shit, I haven't seen
Yeah.
Caleb in forever. Like that's weird. Like him and I were like best friends hanging out all the time, and then we weren't because I was surrounding. But I'm consciously doing that. I know you are too. Like you consciously have to put yourself in those environments because it doesn't just naturally happen. And so
Yeah.
as we kind of wrap on today and on the show today, just looking at this idea and this element that each one of you is telling yourself stories that are holding you back. I don't care what level you are. I don't care where you're at. I don't care what you've got going on. Something you are telling yourself is keeping you trapped into the room you're currently in, which is stopping you from allowing you to step into the new room. If you gave yourself 10 minutes to just sit and think about it, to think about who you want to be. Maybe it's another firm. Maybe you know who it is. You see this firm and you're like, dude, they're just a big deal. They're this, they're that. You have this story about them. And there's something you believe that's holding you back from even going after that. Take the 10 minutes, right? Dive into that. Figure out what that is. Figure out what the story, what is it you're telling yourself? Is it that there's bad people? They're just people, so you can't get good people? Is it that you're just in the wrong place? There's just not enough leads. There's not enough clients, or marketing doesn't work for you. Like, what's the story you believe? And then what can you do about it? Like, what's the transition? Like, what's the tactic that you can do to that story? Because you have to realize maybe I'm wrong, which I know is a tough one. I know our audience. I just said you might be wrong. Holy shit. Well, guess what? You probably are. And in order to grow, you got to be able to admit that. So, yeah. Final breakdown, Shane. What do you got, man?
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say is, we got stories in business, but you also have it in your personal life, right?
Yeah.
And with your wife, your kids, probably your extended family, all these stories there too. And there's a lot of fruit there you can dig into as well. Now, I know we mostly talk about business and you got a ton of those holding you back, but you got them in your personal life too. It's something to take a look at.
Yeah, for sure. We are not a one or two dimensional man. So you look back through some of our shows, you'll see it. We talk about what we call the core four, which is a conversation directly tied to that. But that being said, I appreciate you guys being here, listening to the show or watching the show, depending on how you're on this format. If you got value from today's show, go ahead and share the show up. Share the show up. We appreciate it, but it also may help somebody else out there who may be struggling and maybe they got a story that's keeping them stuck and rooted in who they are. You can see it, but they can't. And this might just be the little nudge they need to push them outside of the room. And also our legaledgecoaching.com. Go ahead over there and you can get involved with what is we do with our small groups, masterminds, or one-on-ones, and surround yourself with people who are like-minded, trying to grow and expand the same way that you are. Like, do you want a $20 million firm, 30 million, 40 million, 50 million? Well, guess what? It's much easier to run in a pack than it is to run alone. So hit us up at legaledgecoaching.com. Appreciate you guys being on today's show. Have a fantastic rest of your day.